Hi everyone, my name is Joe Tyrrell and welcome to the Undercut, the GPblog podcast. Last time out in Spain, we had an absolute snooze fest. Mercedes continued to dominate Ferrari and the two youngsters collided on track. To talk us through all of this, I'm joined as always by my trusted panel of experts. We'll look forward to the most iconic race on the calendar, the Monaco Grand Prix. We'll try our best to give you some F1 fantasy tips for the weekend, and we'll have another heated debate in the hot take section. This is the 2019 season, episode 4.
Valtteri, it's James.
Come on. Get it, Joe. No, and that's going to ruin the undercut attempt. Woo! The undercut.
Once again, Adam Newton and Nicolás Quarles join me. Lads, did we stay awake for the entire race?
Tough one to stay awake for, honestly. We're sort of getting used to this in Spain. It was really boring.
I only stayed up because I was writing content for the website after the race, so I kind of had to.
Well, Adam, you were very unlucky there, but we'll dive straight into some of the headlines. We discussed it last week, but Zandvoort was finally confirmed. It's cool to have it back on the calendar, but we're not sure it's the right track.
In the last episode, I've kind of roasted Zandvoort a little bit, but I would like to kind of 180 on this a little bit because let me explain. Last week I said a lot of changes need to be made to make this viable, and well, since the announcement, they have said all the right things to make those changes. They're going to change the last corner quite heavily to make it more favorable to overtakes. They're going to make the home straight way longer. They're going to, I think, turn 3, they're going to increase the runoff area. Turn 4 will have a wider inside. But they're doing all these things to try and make it better for overtaking. And they're saying all the right things. So I'm just really hoping that they're actually going to happen and they'll actually have a very good race. Because I would love Zandvoort to stay on the calendar for years and years to come.
I think Zandvoort could stay on the calendar for years and years to come because simply of Verstappen.
Yeah.
If you think how long Spain's been on the calendar and it's not always been a great race because of Alonso, now he's off the grid. You know, there's questions about his future. So I think, listen, everything Zandvoort's saying is good. You know, they're saying all the right things, they're promising all the right promises. And if it is a great race next season, brilliant. We've got another great race and we've got great fans to cheer on Verstappen. So I think there's no harm in trying it.
I can't explain how excited I am for a Dutch Grand Prix to be in my life. I mean, obviously the last one was in 1985, way before I was born, so I've never experienced it. And you guys have obviously always had Silverstone. I've never been that privileged to have a home Grand Prix, so I'm just super pumped to have this back.
It's a really cool setting as well, I think, in the middle of the dunes. I think it's really cool. So
yeah, it's literally next to the beach.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good addition next year. Whether it takes Spain's place, we'll have to wait and see. But sticking with the themes of tracks, Morocco are in talks supposedly to host their first Grand Prix since 1958.
Yeah.
It's a bit come out of nowhere, really.
Not really seen this one coming. It's obvious the F1 management have said they want an African race, and we've all been thinking, it'll be in South Africa at Kyalami, where we had plenty of races there in the past. The last one in 1993, I believe. But Morocco has sort of unexpectedly got quite a racing heritage in a way. They held F1 races back in the 50s. They've also held Formula E races there and I believe World Touring Car races there recently. So it's obviously got some racing pedigree and let's see where it goes. It might be there, it might be Kyalami, but I think Chase Carey and Liberty Media are all about expanding the reach of Formula One, which is why we've seen the Vietnam Grand Prix come in, for example. And I think an African Grand Prix will happen. It's just a case of when. Will it be next year, 2021, when the new rules come in or whatever? But I think it will happen. It'll be exciting to see a race in Africa.
Yeah, it really will. I mean, Sean Bratches, the commercial director of the F1, said that every continent is represented now in the F1 calendar except for Africa, and that's a really valid point, obviously. And yeah, whether it's Morocco or South Africa, wherever it may be, I just would really like to see an African Grand Prix.
And maybe it could inspire a new generation of African drivers. Because we've got some Chinese drivers coming through. There's a couple in F2 this year and in lower categories as well. And that's when did the Chinese Grand Prix start? 2004?
3, I believe.
2003. So it was that sort of era where these young kids are growing up, and now they're on maybe, I don't know, on the cusp of Formula One, you could say, getting close to it. And in 20 years' time, who knows, we could have a Moroccan world champion or something.
That'd be really cool.
That'd be interesting to see.
That's the headlines we've picked out for you this week. We'll move straight on to the Spanish Grand Prix, and I'll quickly recap it for you because it wasn't one for the memory books. Lewis Hamilton overtook Valtteri Bottas off the line as the pair, along with Sebastian Vettel, went wheel to wheel in the first corner, but unfortunately that's about as exciting as it got. Lando Norris and Lance Stroll got in a tangle and left the safety car to settle the race, with Hamilton and Bottas coming in for fresh tyres, and behind them Leclerc had to follow suit. Verstappen and Vettel stayed out, Leclerc dropped down to 5th, and then all the races stayed in that order. Lads, as the top 3 went into turn 1, side by side, you must be thinking, we could be in for a treat here. 66 laps later, wasn't to be.
Yeah, when they went side by side into that first corner, I was praying that Sebastian Vettel was going to get in front. Not because I'm a huge Vettel mania fan, just to see a cool race, because I think we all knew that if it was Mercedes 1 and 2 after the first couple of corners, unless they Hamilton and Rosberged it, it was going to stay that way for the rest of the race, and that's how it proved. Vettel couldn't hold it around the outside, and it just turned into a really, really rubbish race.
One thing I did like, we were talking about this before recording, but Verstappen, in my opinion, is the best driver of the season so far.
Pound for pound, you described him as.
Pound for pound, he's the best driver of the season so far. And he out-qualified one of the 2 Ferraris, and he outperformed them both in the race in his Red Bull.
He's never been beaten by both of them this season, has he?
It truly is remarkable, I think, how well he's performed in that Red Bull and how consistent he is, because we've never seen this from Verstappen before, him driving this consistently and getting the absolute most out of that package consistently. Since FP3 in Monaco, and obviously we're going to touch on Monaco later, since FP3 in Monaco when he absolutely binned his car, he's been unreal, absolutely unreal. And as a fellow countryman, I'm proud of him.
Do you think he can hold on to P3 this year? That would be really good to stamp his authority down.
I mean, I think that depends more on Ferrari than it depends on him. But with it definitely won't be his fault if he doesn't finish P3. That'll just be Ferrari turning the corner, I guess.
Speaking of Ferrari, had an absolute mare once again, didn't they?
Once again.
It's becoming far too regular, and I mean, there wasn't much Vettel could do about the flat spot on his tyre, but
he could have not locked up.
He could have not locked up, but he got a bit
making
unlucky.
us look silly as well, because we keep predicting them to win every race, and they just completely mess it up every time. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of being made look back by Ferrari strategists messing it up.
And all the upgrades they supposedly brought as well, we saw nothing.
Well, it doesn't matter what upgrades you bring if halfway through the race you don't know what strategies your drivers are on.
Yeah.
Did you hear the radio conversation? Which strategy is Leclerc? And like, come on, guys.
Yeah. That if you actually want to compete for titles, for championships, that kind of stuff is just, it's so unprofessional.
It's not like they're a new team. Like,
yeah.
They're not learning the trade.
In 2016 or one of the teams that came in 2010. This is Ferrari.
Yeah.
You're meant to be the best.
I get that Ferrari comes with, the entire country of Italy watching your every move and stuff, but if you can't do this stuff right, then frankly you have no chance.
If you can't deal with the pressure.
Yeah, you can't slip up ever if you want to beat Mercedes. And they're not going to do it if they keep doing this.
The one interesting stat is the gap between Mercedes and Ferrari is already bigger than it was at the end of last season.
Yeah. I mean,
that's crazy.
I didn't know that.
That's crazy, isn't it?
That is crazy.
Well, it's all one way at the top with Mercedes dominating, but further down in the midfield, there was a little bit of action with Stroll and Norris, wasn't there? I mean, I say a little bit. It caused a safety car.
It was. You never want to say a crash sort of as the highlight of the race, but it kind of was, wasn't it? Down at turn 1, Norris had a little look at the outside of Stroll, and a bit of a racing incident. For me, Stroll seemed to just come across Norris and cut him up a bit. It's an unfortunate one. I'd probably lay more blame at Stroll's door than I would Norris, but the stewards took no action. I think it's the right decision.
Yeah, very surprised that Adam picks the McLaren side, first of all. But no, That's true, but I also think that Norris should have seen that Stroll's nose was way ahead of his, and maybe he should have yielded. Maybe he was a bit too enthusiastic heading into that second corner of the chicane. But having said that, yeah, it truly is a racing incident, you know. Two really young drivers, both probably really eager to prove to the world how good they are, I guess. And yeah, this kind of stuff just happens. And thank God that it happened because, you know,
it made it a little bit exciting for about 10 seconds.
Gave you a little like coffee, you know, a little caffeine burst to get you through the rest of the race.
Well, also in the midfield, Haas showed a few signs of resurgence as they've secured their first double points finish of the season. Will we be more impressed with them this time? Yeah,
they're one of my winners from this week. P7 and P10 could have probably been better if they hadn't decided to squabble with each other. Didn't Grosjean go wide at turn 1 3 laps in a row? that was quite incredible.
Around it.
Yeah, he's a very wide entry to turn 3. Wide entry to turn 3 for sure. But yeah, first points since Australia. You'd hope that
they want to kick on from here now.
Yeah, you'd hope that their race problems are over now, and they can kick on and chase after McLaren in P4 because they've definitely got the pace to do it. They just need that consistency that they've sort of struggled with since they came into Formula One. Really,
I would add to that we've touched on this last episode, didn't we? That I've been so good in qualifying, but their race strategies always seem to mess up a little bit, and this time they just got it spot on. And obviously Spain is this kind of benchmark for how the rest of the season will look like most years, and this is really promising if they can get a double points finish here, and Renault being well outside the points. That's really promising for the Americans.
Absolutely. Adam, you mentioned Haas were one of your winners, but who else have you got?
I've got Carlos Sainz as another of my winners. It's always nice to see a driver scoring points in his home race. He finished 8th, which is a good haul of points for him. 4 more points for him.
Especially after he's had a tough start to this season.
Yeah, he's had a few retirements, but
very unlucky start to the season.
Very unlucky start, yeah. But it was interesting because I know Nick's going to touch on Renault in a minute. Him and Ricciardo were battling sort of until the safety car period, and then Sainz ended up P8, Ricciardo ended up P13. That was some strategy from McLaren, some good thinking from Sainz, some good moves, and I think it was a really mature, positive drive from Carlos Sainz, and he's shown what he can do in that car, and I'm sure it will continue because he's a fantastic young driver.
Well, young, 24. Is that still young? I guess it is.
Not in 2019 F1 terms, but he's still got a lot of years ahead of him.
What's Hamilton? Hamilton, is he?
He's 34.
34, yeah. Nick, Adam said it. Renault are your big losers.
Yeah, they are my big losers. Renault
again.
Well, Cyril Abiteboul said during testing this week that Renault had to sacrifice a bit of performance to bring this sort of reliability update, because obviously they've been struggling really badly with reliability, and you can have a quick engine, but if it can't stay on the track, obviously it's worth nothing. So they had to give a little performance back, as it were, to improve reliability. And Nico Hülkenberg didn't even get out of Q1 on Saturday, did he? And Ricciardo, well, obviously he did get to... Did he get to Q3?
I think, he got to Q3,
back
but
eventually.
then he went backwards during the race as well.
Yeah, but they finished way outside of the points, both of them. And, well, they have their work cut out for them, don't they? I keep saying that at the start of the season, they were, well, I won't say cocky, but they were so sure of themselves that they would lead the midfield and potentially cut the gap a little bit to the top 3. And I think they're 8th in the Constructors' Championship now. I mean, get it together, guys.
Nick, maybe a bit of a controversial one. Do you think that update to bring reliability but reduce their pace was worth it? Because surely you'd rather have less reliability but a chance of finishing in the top 10 rather than having really bad pace, but or you'd rather like finish P7 one week and retire the next and finish P14 twice in a row.
Yes, but I would also argue that if you at least complete races, you have more data to analyze and to look at, and that's such a big thing in F1, obviously, with testing and everything. I would argue that giving back, and obviously as well, because if you keep retiring and keep losing components, that's going to bite you in the ass later in the year, obviously, when you have to take penalties. So I would argue that reliability is the number one thing, especially in midfield.
Adam, your big losers this weekend. It's another team, and after such a good start for Kimi Räikkönen, it wasn't so good this weekend.
No, Alfa Romeo Not so good this weekend. Both Raikkonen and Giovinazzi out of the points. Didn't make Q3. Giovinazzi's not really a huge surprise that he was out of the points, but it is a surprise that Raikkonen could only manage P14. He was one of only the top 5 and him finished in the points in the first 4 races. And he was just nowhere near it in Spain. So it's a bit confusing, but...
He had troubles all weekend, didn't he?
Yeah, he couldn't really get to grips with the car on the track, which is strange considering they have all that data for Spain from their 8 testing days. But potentially it's just a one-off and he'll be back at it in Monaco. Or
he probably will.
He probably will, but it's a little bit worrying for Alfa Romeo that they were behind even Renault, who we've been slating all season.
Well, if you remember 2 years ago, Raikkonen got pole position in Monaco, so I'm really confident that if he has somewhat of a good car, he'll be fine there. But my big winners, and this is really backhanded, is the fans for never having to see a Spanish Grand Prix again for the coming years.
We're going to debate that a bit more later.
Harsh.
No, it's been like this for so long. I mean, I guess in 2016 you had Hamilton and Rosberg collide and Verstappen won, and that was really cool. And in 2012 Maldonado won, and that was really cool. But generally they're just such boring races. There's no overtaking. There's no anything. And you had the Alonso factor, obviously, and he won in 2013 and in 2006, I believe. He won it twice. But yeah, the Spanish Grand Prix, I hate to say it, but it's just a really boring one. And I think that we should just be a little more, I guess, progressive and just leave it behind and move on to like a better, potentially better track in Zandvoort. So the fans, big winners.
Even in 2016, just to add, the race was only exciting simply because it was Verstappen's first Red Bull race. Like, if Verstappen had been in that car all season, we probably wouldn't be remembering that.
I was obviously on the edge of my seat when that was happening the whole race because I was just praying he wouldn't mess up that race. But if you helicopter view look at it, it was actually a really boring race. It was just Verstappen leading Raikkonen that entire race, and I won't say I'm glad to see it go, but I hope they can just, I don't know, maybe do that Jerez or something, like a different circuit. I was
going to mention that. I'd be sad to see the Spanish Grand Prix go. I wouldn't be sad to see the circuit to Catalonia go.
The fans are amazing.
Yeah,
do you think the 8 testing days in pre-season hinder the quality of the race and the drama of the race?
I think so.
I was going to use that. I will use that as an argument later. So... let's not
come back to that.
We won't say too much then. Wow. In that case, we'll jump straight into the next Grand Prix of the season, and we're off to the Principality for the Monaco Grand Prix. Quick flashback to last year's race. Daniel Ricciardo won from pole, and that was his last victory in Formula 1. Vettel and Hamilton completed the podium, whilst Max Verstappen surged through the field for P9 from 20th. A respectable race given the circuit of Monaco. Nick, talk us through that track.
Yeah, well, speaking of boring Grand Prix venues.
Here we go again.
No, Monaco is probably the most fun track to drive on, but probably the worst track to race on. It's obviously such an iconic venue, and I would never, ever dream of it going away like Spain is for now. But that track, it's really technical. Just the one DRS zone on the straight, and that's not a very long straight either. But it's a very downforce heavy track with that very slow hairpin. And typically cars with the best downforce setups tend to do the best here. That's obviously why Daniel Ricciardo won last season. Yeah, so I guess I'm looking forward to it. Am I? I don't know. Mixed feelings.
I'm looking forward to it because a Monaco Grand Prix is always a special event. It's not always...
It's everything that goes with it as well, isn't it? It's the only race on the programme that starts on a Thursday, right?
Yeah. No Friday practice, Thursday practice in Monaco. A nice little... what do you call it?
Keep you on your toes, I guess.
Yeah, keeps you on your toes if you're not checking up. Monaco is a staple on the F1 calendar, and even though it's boring, it will never go.
No, it shouldn't.
It can't go.
No, it shouldn't go. And in terms of winners, we always think of Red Bull having this great downforce package, and it was just the engine that was not up to scruff. But this season, I'm not convinced at all that Red Bull will do well. I can't see them winning this. Their downforce hasn't been good this season at all. Now they have a better power unit. So you hate to see it, but it's gonna be Mercedes. It's gonna be Mercedes.
Number 6.
Mambo number 6.
Cut that.
I like that bit. Mambo number 6. Chuck in there.
No, we're gonna leave that in, even though it's probably the worst joke I've ever made. Yeah, Mercedes just, it's boring, but Mercedes just have the best car. Let's be real. Let's be honest. Let's not kid ourselves. Red Bull don't have that great of downforce this season. It's gonna be Mercedes.
Adam, tell me why we should have more confidence in Red Bull.
Because it's good. Good for the championship.
Tell me why.
Well, yeah, as Nick said, the downforce hasn't been as good. But on the flip side, I know it's not engine based, but their engine is better. And if they've still got that lead on downforce over Mercedes and Ferrari like they've had in recent years, they could maybe not beat Mercedes, but compete with Mercedes. And I think that's just, we want to see someone take the game to them.
Are we expecting them to keep Ferrari out then?
Yeah.
Or
This week, yeah.
I mean, let's put it like this: whoever gets pole Monaco wins, except if they crash themselves, because overtaking is literally impossible, like actually impossible. And Red Bull's qualifying pace has been off this year. Ferrari, apart from Bahrain, has not been there either. If we're being realistic, Mercedes is going to take this. It's just I'm sorry.
It's sad to admit it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. It's inevitable.
It's disappointing because we just want to see good racing.
It's going to be a 1988 McLaren
it's
winning.
going to be one of those seasons.
They won 15 of 16 races.
Only one they didn't win was Italy.
Yeah, it could be like that. I genuinely think that maybe Red Bull will steal one, maybe Ferrari will steal a couple, but it's looking like that, honestly.
The gap is so big.
Already, yeah, massive.
Well, we'll move on to a bit more of an unpredictable battle now then. Who are you guys expecting to make their mark in the midfield? Haas showed signs they're improving in Spain, or could Perez replicate his 2016 heroics?
I don't want to give Adam high hopes, but I do back McLaren to do well here.
Hamilton 2.0, do you reckon?
You mean Lando Norris?
I mean Lando Norris.
Are we even calling him Lando Norris? I hope Sainz keeps this good form going and doesn't have another unlucky outing in Monaco. I back McLaren, but it's honestly, this is just guessing in midfield at this point. It could be anyone. Really.
Every week we try to predict the midfield, and every week we're sort of only halfway there. But the midfield battle is incredible. Should we maybe kick Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari out?
just have the midfield.
It's Formula 1.5, isn't it?
Maybe cut Williams off at the other end as well. The midfield.
Put them in Formula 2.
Oh wow.
I would
They're that bad now at this point.
I'd kind of like to see, and I think it was better in Spain. A lot has been made about it. The F1, I guess, race television directors don't seem to show loads of the midfield battles when they are way more interesting than Bottas being 1.5 seconds behind Hamilton for the first 20 laps or whatever.
Yeah.
But this midfield battle, if you watch that little sidebar which has all the names and all the times on, is a really close battle, and that's where the real interesting championship is for me. And McLaren have been good, and I'm obviously very happy about that, but I am still wary of Racing Point. Careful not to call them Force India. Racing Point with Perez has a good record in Monaco, got a podium a few years back, if you remember. 2016. And Lance Stroll's been improved, although he did take out Hamilton 2.0 in a very rash and horrible move in Spain.
we don't want to keep talking about Spain, Adam.
Oh, let's move on from Spain.
I was actually going to say that Stroll, I wouldn't put any money on him doing well. Stroll has been pretty mistake prone this season, and Monaco
I can see him being in the wall.
Monaco is the most punishing track on the calendar. It's famous for that, and I would not be surprised to see Stroll on the wall somewhere, at the casino or at the swimming pools, wherever.
Ooh, even picking out the corner. I think he'll go straight in
the swimming pool.
Santa vote like Verstappen did a few years ago.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good one. Yeah.
Nobody to pull a Jensen button and push Pascal Wehrlein into the wall,
flipping him.
That was one of the most incredible crashes I've ever seen.
His car.
Yeah, and it was just
slow motion,
sideways on the wall. That was incredible.
Right, it's that time again, lads. You've hinted at it pretty much already, but what are you going for this week? Predictions?
Verstappen, what? No. Yeah, it's going to be Hamilton 1, Bottas 2. I think Hamilton's going to extend that lead.
Verstappen 3?
Verstappen 3, yeah. Let's at least give the guy podium.
Adam?
I've got the same 3 drivers, but I'm going to hold out for a change.
Oh.
Hamilton 1.
That's risky.
Verstappen 2.
Ooh.
Bottas 3.
Right, guys, make sure you check out hashtag GPblogs predicts, where you can see what everyone else on the team has to say. Who are you going for fastest lap, guys?
Fastest lap?
Yeah, go on. Give me your fastest lap.
Verstappen.
But yeah, Verstappen.
Verstappen.
He'll put one together in the
Original
last 10.
Adam.
Well, there's obviously some common themes in the studio, guys, but let us know who you think is going to be in the top 3. Is Hamilton going to dominate again, or will Verstappen and Red Bull pull something out of the bag?
Or will Ferrari suddenly be awesome?
Ooh. Find out at the Monaco Grand Prix. Right, it's time for my favourite part of the show, F1 Fantasy. I'm still top, but we'll skim over my genius. Adam, who are your picks for the Monaco Grand Prix?
My picks for the Monaco Grand Prix, aside from the obvious, Bottas, Hamilton, Mercedes, I'm going to back McLaren again. I think that might be the 3rd time I've done that. But listen, they're P4 in the championship.
They are.
Yeah, they're probably one of your best midfield options. Carlos Sainz looks back on form, but I think as a cheap-ish set of drivers, I mean, you probably only want one just in case they come back. I think that could be a good little suggestion for you. How much is Carlos Sainz, Nick? You've got the list there.
7.4 million.
He's very cheap then.
Very cheap.
Yeah, he's probably worth it for the amount of points he'll score you.
What I would do on a circuit like Monaco is pick someone you will know won't hit the barriers.
So Grosjean.
So not Grosjean, not Stroll, not Magnussen or any guys like that. I would go just Kimi Räikkönen. Be sensible, be consistent. I think I picked him last weekend as well.
Is he your turbo driver, Kimi Räikkönen?
I haven't decided yet.
You've given me your picks, but who are you avoiding? Ferrari seem the obvious ones.
Yeah, just avoid Ferrari at this point. They're still the second most expensive team. The Vettel is still the second most expensive driver after Hamilton. Just
stay away from them.
Just avoid them. Just keep them out of your lives.
Like the plague. Avoid them.
All right.
Bit of a random pick there. Adam, other than Ferrari and probably Williams as well.
And the plague.
Yeah. And the plague. Do avoid the plague.
Who are you avoiding this week?
I'm avoiding...
Give me a driver.
I'm going to say Antonio Giovinazzi.
Kvyat is the cheapest driver you can buy.
Yeah, so go for Danny Kvyat. Why not?
That I tell you what, that Toro Rosso is underrated.
Avoid Renault as well, because their drivers are expensive and their drivers aren't good. And as Nick said, avoid any drivers.
Are you saying Ricciardo's overrated?
Well, the fans disagreed. The fans disagreed with that. They weren't happy.
I got some heat for that.
Nick got some stick for that.
Yeah, well.
But
your hate makes me unstoppable.
Moving on to the hot take section now. Last time it got very heated. It got heated in the comment section as well, as Nick mentioned.
I mean, it's meant to be a hot take,
Yeah, don't take everything so seriously, guys. Come on. Right.
I can't sleep.
You guys are going to go head-to-head again this week. You're going to have 30 seconds to debate. Is it good that the Spanish Grand Prix is set to be white for the 2020 season? You'll have 30 seconds. When your time is up, you'll hear this sound.
Stop it.
Adam, I'm going to make you go first, and you are going to defend the Spanish Grand Prix.
I'm on a bit of a losing streak
defend
here.
the Circuit de Catalunya.
I need to compose myself.
Bit of zen.
Yeah. Here
we go.
Is that a gong I hear?
Adam, your time starts in 3, 2, 1.
So, what other tracks on the Formula 1 grid have had 2 very surprising winners in the last decade or so? Maldonado and Verstappen, both surprising winners, both at Spain. Spain, the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona is one of the classic tracks. If we get rid of all the classic boring tracks, we've got hardly any left. Spain is a staple of the track and has to stay. Carlos Sainz is an emerging force in Formula 1 and he needs a home Grand Prix as much as Max Verstappen does. 2 seconds to go.
He's done it.
Stop it.
Well, he's not only has he defended the Spanish Grand Prix, he's attacked Zandvoort, Nick.
Yeah.
Are you going to stand for that?
I'm not.
You are going to attack the Spanish Grand Prix, the Circuit de Catalunya, and your time starts now.
If you have a race that starts at 2 p.m. and you struggle to stay awake, you know there's something wrong with that Grand Prix, Adam. Let's be honest here. Verstappen winning isn't that surprising either because he's the best driver on the grid.
Pound for pound.
Zandvoort is a better track. I don't see any beaches near the Circuit de Catalunya, and there are at Zandvoort. It's a lovely place. Barcelona is an overrated city.
This has got out of hand.
And I don't know. I'm running out of arguments.
Nick's lost the plot. Nick's lost the plot.
Barcelona is an overrated city.
It is.
This is an attack on the Spanish culture.
Isn't Barcelona
I'm
on the
half
coast
Spanish.
anyway?
Yeah, but the track isn't. It's not actually in Barcelona.
This has got personal.
I'm half Spanish, okay, guys. Though I love Spain.
Adam. I don't know if Adam's got any relation to Spain, but
He doesn't.
Nick
No, I don't.
attacked it. Nick's a Madrid fan. That's why. That's
Yeah,
why
as is Carlos
Barcelona is
Sainz.
overrated. Well, that is a tough one. Adam gave some good reasons.
Oh, I forgot my main argument.
What was it? You've lost your time. But what
You
was
can
it?
give it now, but I'm hoping it doesn't
it
persuade
doesn't
you.
go
to.
to-
My main
It
argument.
won't go towards it.
Yeah,
but-
I know, but my main argument was that because testing is there, the team have so much data on the circuit.
Of course, we
The
mentioned
team
earlier.
has so much data on the circuit that you always have the Ark of Noah starting grid where all teammates are next to each other.
It's overcomplicated it,
Yeah.
and it's just.
Shame you decided
I got
to
too
talk
passionate.
to talk about beaches than you did actual tracks.
Well, I
Look.
think I've got to give it to Adam purely because Nick attacked the beaches rather than
It's all about location.
rather than the Grand Prix itself.
It's all about location.
Well, guys, let us know what you think about the Spanish Grand Prix in Zandvoort in the comment
That
section
was-
below. Do you hate the beaches just as much as do you like the beaches
I love
just
the
as much
beach.
as Nick
Oh, I
does?
love the beach.
And do you like the beaches as much as Nick does, or do you want to see the Spanish Grand Prix stay? Let us know in the comment section
One
below.
of the two.
Beach or Spanish Grand Prix.
Yeah,
either.
yeah. Which one do you guys want? Put it down in the comment section below, and are we going to leave a poll? We'll leave a poll.
Yeah,
again.
we'll leave a poll.
We
Yeah,
left
why
a poll last time. We'll leave a poll again. But is that 2-2 now?
That's 2-2 now.
2-2. Adam takes this week's win. Congratulations, Adam. You're on a bit of a
Thank you.
bad run, but you're finally taking
I
it.
will just say that Zandvoort Beach isn't the most attractive.
I think I quite like it.
All the pictures I've seen, it's all cloudy and horrible.
Well, have you been there?
No.
Adam's never left Norfolk and Cheltenham.
I went for a lovely walk there a few weeks ago, and I loved Zandvoort.
Well,
Hopefully Zandvoort in 2020
We'll see.
will be the race of the season. We'll see a massive pile up at the Tarzan corner.
Instead of
And,
a track walk, it's just a beach walk.
and Esteban Ocon will win his first Formula 1 race.
that's a hot take.
There you go, that's my
Jeez.
hot take. But for the first time ever, guys, we've got some questions from the crowd. Questions from the crowd, right. This question's from Matt Gretton. Matt says, a lot of talk about Williams replacing Robert Kubica over the last couple of days. Should they do it? Nicholas Latifi has been linked. Well, has he got an FP1 drive in Canada, is it?
Yep.
He's got a couple on his belt now.
Yeah. So he could be the man to replace him. But is it the right decision, Adam?
No.
No. Why is that?
Well,
Well, moving on.
No, sorry.
who is going to do a better job in that car?
George Russell?
Well, yeah, George Russell is doing a better job, but is anyone realistically going to come in and score points? No. Nicholas Latifi is currently top in F2. He's having a great season. He's got 3 wins from 6 races under his belt already.
That is very impressive, I must
It
say.
is impressive, yeah. What's the point in putting him in now? If you're going to put him in, just stick him in next season, and then you can drop Kubica. And Kubica's had 8 years out. I know he's had a lot of driving recently, but still, he's still had 8 years out, and he's in a really bad car. He's not going to be scoring points and getting into Q2 or 3. And I just think that it would be such a pointless move. And Williams already have so many financial constraints. They're not going to pay off Kubica's contract to get rid of him and bring another guy that they've got to pay in. So
Well,
I can't see it happening.
Nick Latifi has a father that would put Lawrence Stroll to shame in terms of net worth.
Think about these Canadians.
Yeah, our Canadian billionaire intake in F1 is incredibly high right now. No, yeah, just stick with Kubica. Why would you replace him mid-season? It's not like that car's going anywhere, quite literally. So yeah, just stick with Kubica.
It's not like a Fiat versus Verstappen problem from 2016, is it?
Yeah.
It's not going to make any difference. So I don't get. If they do it, I will be baffled.
Well, guys, let us know what you think in the comments section below. Is Robert Kubica the right man, or should he be replaced by Nicholas Latifi? Another question. This one will match Nick's absurd response in the hot take section. I think I'm gonna give this one to Nick first. Brad Tomshaw says mango or watermelon.
It's mango. I just had some mango before I started recording. Look, watermelon is refreshing. It's very nice on a hot summer day. But if you want nutrition, if you want a versatile fruit,
That all-round That pound for pound of fruit.
Pound for pound, a better fruit. It's more practical. It's healthier. You can have it in smoothies, in even in salads. You can put it in anything, and you can't put watermelon in anything.
So to bring it back to F1, are you saying that mango is the Mercedes of fruits and watermelon is perhaps the Ferrari of fruits? A little underflavoured, a little not quite the full round package?
I would say watermelon is like Fernando Alonso. It's great by itself, but it's not a good team player. You can't mix it with anything. I think that's fair. And frankly, mango's objectively the better fruit, I think. Healthier, more delicious.
We've gone off on one here, but it's a bit of an odd flavour. Do you think the drivers are allowed mango and watermelon?
Yeah, of course. Mango's
it's healthy.
Well, mango's nutritious, but are they allowed watermelon?
I mean, watermelon it's just water, so why wouldn't you be allowed
Yeah, that's a good point actually.
What? Just have a slice.
Have a slice, guys. Well, if you want to tell us whether you prefer mango or watermelon,
go to the Zandvoort beaches. Bring a mango.
I think that's all we've got time for. Oh,
no, I was just going to say that's a fantastic question from Brad.
Thank you, Brad, for that fantastic question. Right, that's all we got time for though this week, guys. We've had some interesting debates this week. It's been a different one.
This has been quite an interesting episode, I must say.
Much more positive than last week.
It's taken a turn in the last, I don't know, section, but it's been an interesting one. But we hope you enjoyed the Monaco Grand Prix, and hopefully it's more exciting than the Spanish Grand Prix, although we're not hugely hopeful. Thank you to my guests once again.
No
Thank
problem.
you, Joe.
Adam,
Thanks for
Nick,
having us.
We'll see you all next week. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Valtteri, it's James.